This is Pia Gladys Perey, and Donnell is telling my story.
Perfect. Okay.
Awesome.
Hey, right? It makes it easy. So now we're just going to go ahead and get started with everything. And if you wouldn't mind, just walk us through your journey. So, Pia, you work with a lot of celebrities.
Mm-hmm.
You do amazing runways. Like looking at where you are right now, it's almost difficult to imagine that you haven't literally been doing this since you came out of the womb. So could you kind of walk us into how did you get started in fashion?
Well, it's a funny story. I grew up in a country town in the Philippines called Tagaytay, and grew up with my my grandmother made clothes for most of the female members of my family. And as a child, I had an accident when I was very little, about 4 months old, which caused me to have, I was actually vision impaired until August last year. And, because of that accident, I was, not much allowed to, how in the province kids would play outside. And, so I wasn't allowed to do that. And I was just, my grandmother would just ask me to come and, watch me make dresses. So that's how I spent my childhood, with my grandmother making dresses. And she is, during that time, she was my fashion icon. I think until now she is. Some of her clothes I still have with me. I still use them.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
so
it's amazing.
Literally in your blood.
It is
literally in
and
your blood.
What's so funny is the highlight of my day would be her stepping out of her bedroom. And I'm just so excited to see what she's wearing. And mind you, she has a revolving rack door. And she's a country girl. Well, my grandfather built it for her because she loves shoes. I have that addiction as well, but she loves shoes, and so I think that how it all started. And then the business side of me, my grandfather, when he retired, instead of just relaxing, he decided to put up his own business. And by the time he passed away, when he was 75, he had 200 employees. So it's quite a good combination of, fashion and from my grandmother and the business side of my grandfather. So I was very lucky growing up, being exposed to that. But then I think when my grandmother passed away when I was 11, I was like, okay, when you had an icon and then suddenly she's not there anymore, you just go about what's expected of you. So my family were expecting me to go in college. I studied philosophy and political science, and I was meant to be a lawyer. So I did that. I finished my pre-law. But then at 20, I literally, I had my son when I was 20, and I literally woke up one day and I said, oh my God, I'm not doing what I'm meant to do, what I'm supposed to do. I was in a flyover. I was in a freeway. And right in the middle of it, it just happened, some sort of divine intervention or something snapped in my brain, and I said, I'm going to be a fashion designer. So there, at 20, I decided that I'm going to be one, and then I just slowly tried to find my way into having my first fashion job.
So, okay, talk us through the process, because to say, okay, I'm having my epiphany, I have to follow my heart, and I have to do this. How do you get from there to actually having something that is tangible for people to see and say, this is my first collection?
Well, it's quite a long journey. I was 20 then, and I launched my first collection when I was 27, so it took me 7 years. So, but what I did is, since I didn't have a fashion education, and I'm the type of person that when I want something, I will find every way to get it. So what I did is, back in the Philippines, I bought this, it's like a style annual. Back in the days you had those magazines. It's like a review, because you don't have, the internet yet, or you don't have, right away access to what's in the runway. So you buy the style annual or the style magazine that's a review of what was on the runway for that season. So I bought the local version of that, and I went through the designer list, and I called each and every one of them asking if they need. Yeah, I did. I really did. And this is alphabetical order. I asked each one of them if they need an assistant. And, well, somebody hired me at letter P, from letter A to letter P. So that's quite a number of designers, as you can imagine. But, yeah, somebody hired me, and I basically just taught myself because I have a son. I can't really afford to go to school anymore. And somehow I need to, earn money, but at the same time, I need to learn. So what I did is I just try to learn as I was working. And then when I have spare time or during lunch breaks, I would ask the pattern makers and the dressmakers if I can watch them make the dresses, so that I have the technical skills as well. So I stayed in that job for 2 years, and after that I just took on another role as like a fashion design and merchandising assistant in Speedo. So I had that, and then so I went from one retail brand to another retail brand. So I worked technically for 2 years with Speedo, and then another 2 years for a massive brand in the Philippines. So even without the education, I think if the reason why I was able to learn all of these things that I know now is that I was just really a sponge, and I was really happy to learn anything. And if I am having a hard time, then all the more that I'll spend time, trying to master it. I really went into fashion without knowing anything, and I still don't make the best drawings. So up to this day.
I love that you basically took your tenacity and your ability to learn, and you went about learning as many different aspects of the process as possible, right there from the ground up, and that just right there shows the level of commitment when you say, well, I had this epiphany at 20, and my first collection came out at 27. It goes to show that it's not necessarily something that happens overnight. You do have to put the actual learning and the process and all the rough drafts into your work to get the masterpieces. I think a lot of times in the creative process, people think that every time Mozart sat down to the piano, he wrote a masterpiece.
Oh, no.
It's just not true. There's a lot of trial and error and tribulation. I think it is so important. Thank you for sharing that it is a process. Like, you don't just, have this overnight. You have to really want it, and you have to keep working toward it. And that's such an important thing to hear right now.
And admittedly, it's a very, it could be, it's very challenging, and it could be frustrating a lot of times, but I think if you just really, how many people are, to me, the way I think about it is how many people are so lucky to actually know what they want to do. That a lot of people are that lucky and blessed to just know what they want to do for the rest of their lives with their career. So I felt like it's my duty, especially as being a mother. Like I need to show to my child or to my children that this is the way to live, this is how you live. You do what you love to do, and there's no other way to do it.
Beautiful. So with all that stated, and with you coming from such a rich personal background too, of having your grandmother be that iconic figure in your life, was not just a source of love, but a source of inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
How does your culture and your heritage inform your designs?
You know what's funny is that when I was I'm going to jump a bit. When I was applying for my first show in Australian Fashion Week, because that's where I launched my brand, I was really scared because I was so different. But then they told me that that's the reason why I got in, and it's because the feel of the brand is very different. I think because I come from a tropical country, and we are quite more laid back than most parts of the world. Then my designs actually are a reflection of that. And then I grew up with a mother who's so feminine. So if you look at my designs, they're very, very feminine. They're very flowy, which shows the laid back, attitude of the Filipinos. And then, but at the same time, they're very, comfortable. So it's all of these things I think put together that makes the brand what it is right now. And like when I see it, as of course as I grow older, it changes a bit, but the core is still the same. Like even the colors that I use, because the Philippines was colonized by Spain for more than 300 years. So if you see my collection, there's so much color to it. So so there's like that love, that flair for color, but at the same time, because we're so tropical and we are surrounded by so many beautiful, we have so many beaches and there's so many islands, so there's a tropical feel to it. But at the same time, because women in the Philippines, especially the ones who raised me, are very feminine, it's also a reflection of that. It's a celebration of of femininity, but also of how festive and happy the Filipino culture